America's first competition talk show. You're in the hub.
Right now of what happened on Saturday with the Glenn Beck rally at the National Mall, which most of the media now have said was nothing short of a tent revival. I don't know what they were expecting. I guess they were expecting like a political discourse or brazen politics leading up to November, but they didn't get that. And this is the funny thing: reading an article, New York Times yesterday, and they are analyzing what happened. Now, the group Americans for Prosperity that was blasted by President Obama 2 weeks ago because you don't know where the money's coming from. It could be big special interest groups or out of the country funding or whatnot.
Lizard people.
George Soros, lizard people. I want to bring, it could be anything. It could be Planet of the Apes made a donation online using PayPal. And is what's going to get Congress to flip in November. But so they do this story, right? And they can't figure it out. Wait a second. All these Tea Party activists came to Washington, D.C. They came for this Americans for Prosperity Summit where they spent the entire day talking about economic policy, economic collapse, constitutionally limited government, and a lot of secular political issues. That whole crowd turned around, jumped in a bus the next day, drove to Lincoln Memorial where they could scream Jesus Christ for 3 hours and talk about a need for a return to faith, hope, and charity. So we're looking at this now. They have no context for this. Is the Tea Party movement a political movement? Is it a religious tent revival? Is this the Third Great Awakening or not? There's smoke coming out of their ears, folks. Help them. Leak.
It's they might as well be people who can't program a VCR and they don't understand how could you ever repair a jet engine? That just doesn't seem logical. Of course, it's logical. It's thermodynamics and mechanical engineering. It's just that if you don't understand either of them, you're like, how does anyone possibly repair a jet engine? And actually, I feel like the rally did a great job of showing how traditional themes jibe with what conservatives have been pushing for. So it's not the politics of nullification. It's not class warfare or nativism. It's just, this is what faith says about charity being personal, individuality, and things like that. And people who don't understand that, people who speak in terms of the collective and lifting up other groups, when you talk about individualism, and you speak about it in two different contexts, economics and religion, they literally, it doesn't compute.
Yeah,
it doesn't compute.
Well, and see, here's the thing. They are looking at this going, we can't figure it out. Is it a spiritual movement or is it a movement towards smaller government and out of control spending? Where is the spiritual in the spendthrift nature of the country? Excuse me. Last time I checked, being a good steward of my money, what I do with my money, you say you can tell a lot about a person's heart and soul by looking at their checkbook. Maybe I missed something, but I'm kind of thinking what I do in the physical life I lead reflects something that might be going on in the background, say the principles I live by. Paul, am I off?
I don't know how you can be against faith, hope, and charity. Or honor, for that matter.
Well, you should ask Media Matters because they failed the way.
And I'll tell you why. It is, it goes back to, I don't want to cheapen it by talking about a movie, but it goes back to that scene in A Few Good Men where he says, code, character, blah, blah, blah. There are punchlines, to a cocktail party joke. And, I've faced that. I talk about things and I'm speaking very matter-of-factly about why I've made certain decisions in my life, why I've chosen to go down certain paths. And I speak in those terms, and certain people just their lives are so devoid of those metrics and those principles that they think you're joking.
Yeah.
And they start to smile, and you see the grin go across their face, and then they slowly realize, no, this guy's not joking. These are things that are important to him or her.
But it's bizarre. I mean, 7 days ago, Glenn Beck is a racist, bigot, foaming at the mouth Politico. Now he's Billy Graham. He even ended the damn thing with Amazing Grace. I know it's a disconnect in the sentence there, but the sentence structure. But Paul, here's the thing. One of the other things that really confused me is that not only is the media confused, the religious community is extremely confused right now.
It was a little confusing. You have a Mormon preacher, a bunch of evangelicals supposedly probably in the crowd. You have imams and rabbis and
Native American, Indian spiritualism, Native spiritualism. Yeah, there was a little bit
up on the stage, so it's kind of an interesting mix of people, and I was surprised.
To our knowledge,
that it was
there
so
was
religious.
not Wahhabism, but we really wouldn't know if there was.
But you also had a lot of traditional Protestants. In fact, no one I know personally who went is an evangelical. I mean, they are. In fact, they see those as kind of, taking certain things to extreme. Everyone I know personally who went is a Methodist, an Episcopalian, maybe some Baptist, but really a lot of mainline Protestants and Catholics. And so I think it actually was a true mix.
Well, and Tom.
Well, here's a question I have. I mean, I keep hearing about evangelicals, but what exactly is an evangelical? I mean, everyone who is Christian is going to be trying to tell you what they believe. I mean, so that evangelicals and evangelists, or evangelism and simply telling the word, I mean, I think it's being used as a way to try and we talk about radical Islam, so the left is trying to come up with a way to demonize Christians, and so they talk about the evil of evangelicals, and I don't know there's anything wrong with being an evangelical.
But that's the takeaway. There was nothing radical about this crowd. All of them can't quit gushing with the comparison contrast between this rally and other rallies that they've had in the past. The National Mall was squeaky clean. The only thing they didn't do was vacuum it.
Well, one of the things that I think Glenn Beck is trying to teach the country is that there are decent people in the country, and being a decent person and having decent, good people matters. And you don't make good people through government. You don't make a good government. You make good government through good people, not the other way around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. It
starts with us.
In this country, we've had two Great Awakenings. First Great Awakening was more of an internal struggle back in the 1730s and 40s. You had the George Whitefield types, and you had the Jonathan Edwards types and that type of thing. Second Great Awakening in the early 1800s, as we were doing our westward expansion, you had more of an outward evangelistic thing. You had your John Wesley crowd and your Asburys and that type of thing. Some are saying this is the third Great Awakening in America, but the bizarre thing is, and I think you're going to see this in the religious community, especially, two different types of responses. One of them coming from the folks like James Dobson and some in the Southern Baptist community that are saying that this was a great thing. Richard Land of the Southern Baptist Convention, this was a great event. Others from the likes of Tom Traddop with Salem Communications, which has a big Christian
radio
emphasis on some radio stations and whatnot, saying that he doesn't know when Beck talks about God, what God are we talking about?
Yeah, the dogmatic. That's what I was talking about earlier. The dogmatic are going to be maybe a little bit put off by this.
Well, they're going to be put off by the fact that they didn't come up with it. Yeah. They're going to, quite frankly, be put off with the fact that they don't have control over it. Woe be it that God might move somewhere outside of the little Christian holy bubble box that we've created for ourselves.
Sorry.
I mean, you've got Janet Mefford, who's a nationally syndicated Christian talk show host with Salem, saying, I know he means well, he loves his country, but he doesn't know enough about theology to know what kind of an effect he's having. I'm thinking he's gotten some counsel with this black robe regimen he's come up with. But the bottom line is what I'm saying is God is not your rubber stamp. I don't care who you are, Salem Communications, Tom Traddop, or otherwise. He's not your rubber stamp, and he doesn't need your rubber stamp. He's categorically an absolute, and he doesn't need you to tell him what his business is, all right? And I think if you're going to take that kind of a tone with the future of this debate, you're going to relegate yourself right out of the argument because he's bigger than you are. We'll see you tomorrow.